All right, what is going on YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And guys, we've got to talk about something. Useless battleship players, backlining cruisers, destroyers who won't play the objective are all things we hate in World of Warships Legends. And you guys hear me often pick on, CV players who won't spot DDs or cruisers who won't radar, etc. And especially destroyers who will not spot, cap, play the objective, help you out when you are in a battleship. But there is a third or fourth category, depending on how many we just listed there, who are probably worse than all three of the things I just mentioned combined. And that is the useless, camping, stationary battleship player. Now, of course, this is a free-to-play game, and I don't want to pick on any one player in particular. As you can see, immediately we have a cruiser or battleship going to the C flank and a battleship from the C flank going to the B flank. Imagine, just for a moment, if you will, if each of those ships had simply stayed at the side they spawned on. Right now you can see that they are crossing themselves on the mini-map, and we can't quite tell because we're not looking in their direction at this point in time if they bumped into each other and have caught each other broadside. But you will notice that we spawned at the A flank, and we are heading over to that A side here. So we actually have a special guest, Sir Dumbraz. He is a part-time streamer and just a good overall chat. He's also a combat veteran, I believe, or a veteran, and I always like to support those guys. Anyway, but we're at the A side here, and we notice that there's a bunch of ships now. But the most important thing, and it's actually a ship I pinged earlier for my battleships to shoot at while it was spotted briefly, was that Worcester. He is a radar cruiser with a fast rate of fire and can easily dispatch destroyers if he gets himself in the right position. So as you guys will notice, we are in the A flank, but there is a ton of the enemy fleet on our side. So what are we going to do? We are going to pop our hydro so we don't take any torpedoes if there is the other destroyer in this channel or torpedoing this channel. And we're going to go ahead and go on the defensive here. A lot of destroyers, or the mistake that a lot of the destroyer players in this game make, is they actually do the first part correctly. They go into the cap. However, they do the second part incorrectly, and that is play defense. Now here is a situation that you could argue I don't necessarily make the right play. However, we are trying to get this cap, and on top of that, we're also trying to set off fire on this Yamato as he is in our torpedo lane. But it is at this point in the video I want to draw your attention to the minimap and what the rest of our team is doing. Now it is still very early on in the game, and we have some good map control while distracting a good majority of these ships. But you will see that our team on C is kind of pushing ahead a little recklessly, as well as a majority of our battleships grouping up in one square, and especially the ones on the B and C side are not gaining any advantageous positions whatsoever. Now before we continue on with tactics, strategies, and basically just telling battleship players to move their ship forward, I would like to make a little disclaimer. I do not finish this game with a fantastic score. There are certain things I wish I probably could have done better, like not take a massive salvo from half of the enemy team here in this position. And this is not a video, that I'm going to make of me just complaining about these particular players for the entire video. However, I do think objectively we can look at this game and see some things that our team especially could have done a little bit different. Now that being said, there are also, as I just mentioned, certain moves I could have made that probably would have given our team a little bit more of an advantage. But on average, if you find yourself losing more than you win, and you still have a good portion of your health at the end of a close game, you are not positioning correctly. And what we mean by that is if you have 80 to 90% of your health and your team is down, losing, or it's a close game, you need to get your health involved. And I think that a lot of players are scared or don't understand armor angling, so therefore they simply bow tank at the back of the map, as a good portion of our ships are doing right now, without looking at the mini-map and trying to gain an advantageous position. Right now, I don't really blame the battleship that you'll see on screen here in just a moment, that is on our side for bow tanking and backing up, as there are 5 visible ships in front of him with a few concealed, I believe, and ships in the middle that could potentially hit him. So, in this situation, I don't blame him at all. However, you can see the conga line of battleships that is slowly moving into the Bravo cap instead of either going on each side of that island and trying to get a crossfire, especially on these cruisers. It is the plight of battleships to have a cruiser concealed behind an island or smoke, raining down fire and farming your superstructure for damage. However, if you don't want that to happen, you need to shoot at them, especially when they are spotted. The Dutch cruisers were just announced yesterday, and I know that a lot of Battleship mains are going to complain. I saw a comment that was like, "This is the end of Legends." And guys, the same thing applies to those cruisers as does any farming or high DPM cruiser in this game. If you don't want to be rained on with fire, simply shoot at it and move your ass. It's not that difficult. I would like to make a second little disclaimer here. As you can see, every time I have been spotted, I have been targeted by multiple different ships, which is exactly what should happen. It is not that fun when you are on the receiving end of it, but sometimes you just have to give a tip of the cap to the enemy team. Like we mentioned, Sir Dumbraz was on that team, and while their strategy of sending 5 or 6 ships to Alpha without really getting the Bravo cap early is not something I would have recommended, you can see that I am near backlining now, and I am on line with a good majority of my team. If you want to win games and you want to do well, the strategy that my team is employing right now is not how you do it. A little final disclaimer here that I would like to point out to a lot of people is sometimes it is very easy to point out backlining battleships or destroyers who will not go for objectives and say that that is the reason you lost. However, you only view the battle through your perspective, so what you can do in most cases, or all you can do, is simply look at your gameplay and see how you can try to improve. However, it is a team-based objective game, and for those people who just simply refuse to play in a team-based manner, I ask why. If you're not going to support your friendly ships, now in certain situations you will try to support your friendlies and they'll just YOLO rush in, leaving you out to dry. So trying to find that middle ground of, okay, I'm going to play the cap, but I'm not going to sacrifice my ship, is a surefire way to increase your XP, your damage, and just your overall, experience of quote-unquote fun in Legends. I see a lot of people say that they have fun or they're trying to have fun, and I will never understand how going down in a flaming heap of loser, in 90 seconds is having fun. But regardless, one piece of advice I would have given to my team in this one is to develop that crossfire into A as soon as you see that strong push, and that's why I like to get in that defensive kiting position, especially in a battleship, because it allows you to back up into those situations without really committing to a side or an angle even. Get all of your guns on target and angle your armor. But we will be doing multiple tips and tricks videos to try and educate the player base, so games like these do not happen that often. And here is the culmination of all of our talking points coming to fruition. All of our battleships sitting in one square, no caps gained, no angles gained, and they have most of their health. As you can see, we are down 2 ships rather, and 200 points. In a game like this, you have to use your HP. If we wanted any chance of winning this game, we would need to go on the offensive right now, try to eliminate their destroyer. Now here is where I can potentially be objective to myself. I could have potentially sailed all the way around B. I could have gone through B, but then they would have known, the enemy ships would have known where I was, and tried to get the destroyer. However, it's at this point in the game where I said, you know what, I'm not going to be able to carry 8 people, so I'm just going to sit here and try to do what damage I can. So again, if we're being objective, I did not score an A++ in this game. However, you look at our team's positioning and you just know that the games like these are going to be a loss, and I just don't have enough willpower anymore to score 8,000 XP and get 9 kills in order to win. And some games you're just not going to win. Like I said earlier, some games you just have to tip your cap to the enemy team. I actually remember that I think somebody knocked at my door asking for something in the middle of this game. So situations like that will happen. However, I feel like sometimes they happen a lot more to certain players than they do to others. It's always destroyers, right? it's never anybody else. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let the rest of this game finish out. We actually don't end up with the top XP total or, truthfully, a lot of damage. However, 6 spots, a torpedo on target, 4 defends, and we actually end up with 2 solo caps is more than enough to say that I did my job in a destroyer. A lot of players focus on damage and or kills instead of, playing the objective. And if our team would have done that, they would have gotten both more damage and more kills. But yeah, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think about backlining Bettys, aka backlining battleships. And it's usually those players who complain the most about spam or other game mechanics which are meant to balance out battleship gameplay. We all know that battleships would have dominated in real life. They did, and they would have. However, you can't really design a game around a majority focused class like that and expect other players to play other classes. A piece of advice though, if you're learning or trying to become a better player, is to play other classes, so that way you know how to counter other classes as well as support other classes. If you're in a battleship and you see a destroyer going for a cap and you see a radar cruiser, shoot at the radar cruiser. If you're in a battleship and you see an enemy destroyer, shoot at it. If you're in a radar cruiser and you're near an objective, radar it. You know, of course, if you see it changing, as you can see, our C cap is now being capped. But those are just a few different points on how to become a better player in World of Warships Legends and create a more fun environment for all. I certainly prefer to win. However, I don't mind losing if it's a well-played, very close game. However, it seems like those games are becoming fewer and farther in between, and most games are like this, where battleships are just backlining, trying to chase damage, and play selfishly for damage and kills instead of the win. I know that not everyone is going to agree with that, and I understand that. However, I think it just works out better for all if most people play in an objective, team-based way. But that's my message for the day. Stop being a useless backlining battleship, stop being a useless destroyer, stop being a useless cruiser, and stop being a useless aircraft carrier. Basically, stop being useless. But that is the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you not care? I know I have started to care a lot less than I once did, and I honestly look back at the days where I cared a lot more, and it's just like, you know, it is a video game. However, when I put my name on something, I do want to put in a little bit of effort, because as the saying goes, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I see that a lot throughout life in video games. Your coworker who constantly shows up late is probably not in the best of health, etc. But I'm generalizing here and speaking on matters which I am not an expert in. But anyway, as we get a message from Sir Dumbraz there, he's a good man. I hope he watches this video. Love you guys. I will see you later. I'm out. Peace.
The enemy team has taken the lead. Smoke generator activated. Main turret critically damaged. Problem solved, sir.